Have you ever met someone who, from the very first moment, you knew would change your life? I never thought it could happen to me. Until one sunny afternoon when I crossed paths with a man who had just moved into my quiet neighborhood. What seemed like a simple encounter unfolded into a journey of emotions, healing, and unexpected twists. Join me as we dive into this unforgettable story. After my divorce, I had been single for a while. Life was a strange mixture of loneliness and self-discovery. And though I often missed the warmth of companionship, I was learning to appreciate the quiet solace of my own company. My days were structured yet predictable. Work consumed my energy during the daylight hours, and my evenings were spent lost in the glow of the television or the pages of a book. I lived in a serene, tight-knit neighborhood where everyone seemed to know everyone else, though I largely kept to myself, content to observe life from the periphery. One particularly sunny afternoon, I decided to take a leisurely walk around the block. The sun's warmth was like a gentle embrace, and the air was alive with the laughter of children playing in their yards. The rhythmic chirping of birds and the occasional hum of a lawnmower added to the symphony of suburban life. As I strolled past a familiar row of houses, I noticed an unfamiliar sight: a tall, striking black man unloading boxes from a moving truck. His movements were purposeful and fluid, exuding an effortless confidence that caught my attention. His presence seemed to brighten the corner of the neighborhood he was moving into. And though I tried to keep my curiosity subtle, I found myself stealing glances as I walked by. In the days that followed, I noticed him more often. He was frequently outside, meticulously tending to his yard or chatting amicably with the neighbors. Each time our paths crossed, he would smile and wave, his warmth palpable even from a distance. I learned his name was Thomas, and there was something about his demeanor that drew me in. He radiated a friendliness that made it easy to feel at ease around him, a stark contrast to the guarded nature I had cultivated since my divorce. Soon, my daily walks became more than just an escape from routine. They became an opportunity to catch a glimpse of Thomas. I couldn't help but anticipate those moments of fleeting connection. One evening, as I returned home from work, I noticed Thomas sitting on his porch. He held a glass of something cold, the condensation glistening in the fading sunlight, and seemed to be enjoying the soft whisper of the evening breeze. I hesitated, debating whether to approach him. My heart fluttered with nerves, but something urged me forward, summoning my courage. I walked over, rehearsing casual words in my mind. "Hi, Thomas," I said, hoping my voice sounded steadier than I felt. "How's the move going?" He looked up, his face breaking into a smile that made my breath catch. "Hey there. It's going great. Thanks. Just trying to get everything in order." His eyes held a warmth that seemed to invite me into the moment. And before I knew it, we were deep in conversation. We talked about the neighborhood, our work, and the little quirks of adjusting to a new place. I learned he was an architect, recently relocated for a new job that he seemed genuinely passionate about. His laughter was rich and infectious, and for the first time in what felt like ages, I found myself laughing freely, without hesitation. Time slipped away as we spoke, and when I finally said goodnight, I realized how much I had enjoyed our interaction. Something about Thomas made me feel lighter, as though a part of the weight I carried had been momentarily lifted. After that evening, I found myself looking for excuses to pass by his house, whether it was an extra lap around the block or a conveniently timed errand. I hoped to see him outside, and more often than not. There he was, flashing that familiar smile that made my day a little brighter. One afternoon, as we exchanged pleasantries, he invited me to a barbecue he was hosting that weekend. The invitation caught me off guard, sending a ripple of excitement through me. "Sure. I'd love to come," I replied, trying to mask my enthusiasm. Inside, however, I felt a nervous energy building. It had been a long time since I'd allowed myself to be part of such a social gathering, and the thought of spending more time with Thomas both thrilled and unsettled me. When the day arrived, I stood in front of my closet, deliberating over what to wear. I wanted to make a good impression without appearing as though I had tried too hard. Eventually, I settled on a casual dress that struck what I hoped was the perfect balance. As I approached his house, the sound of laughter and the smell of grilled meat greeted me. The backyard was alive with chatter and the clink of glasses, and Thomas welcomed me with a warm hug that sent a shiver down my spine. He introduced me to his friends, a lively and friendly group who made me feel instantly welcome. The hours passed in a blur of conversation, food, and laughter, and I found myself relaxing in a way I hadn't in years. Thomas stayed close, his presence steady and reassuring. More than once, I caught him looking at me, his gaze lingering just long enough to send my heart racing. As the evening wound down, Thomas suggested we take a walk. The idea sent a spark of anticipation through me, and I eagerly agreed. The streets were quiet as we strolled, the faint glow of streetlights casting long shadows. We talked about everything and nothing, our words flowing as effortlessly as the cool night breeze. When we reached a small park, the moonlight illuminated the space, lending it an almost magical quality. Thomas turned to me, his expression serious yet tender. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. For a moment, I was caught off guard. But then, with a nod, I let the answer come without words. When his lips met mine, the world seemed to fade away. The kiss was soft, tentative at first, but soon deepened into something more intense, more real. It awakened feelings I had buried long ago, and for the first time in years, I felt truly alive. In the days that followed, I couldn't stop thinking about Thomas. I replayed our kiss in my mind, savoring the memory even as it filled me with uncertainty. The prospect of opening my heart again was as exhilarating as it was terrifying. Yet every time I saw him, those fears seemed to melt away. We began spending more time together, sharing meals, exploring the neighborhood, and simply enjoying each other's company. Each moment felt charged with possibility, a reminder of what it felt like to truly connect with someone. One afternoon, as we sat on his porch, Thomas reached for my hand. "I really enjoy spending time with you," he said, his eyes searching mine. A warmth spread through me at his words. "I enjoy it too," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. As weeks turned into months, our bond deepened. Thomas's kindness, humor, and unwavering support became a constant in my life, helping me rediscover parts of myself I had long forgotten. With him, I felt seen, valued, and cherished. Though the future was uncertain, I knew one thing for sure: Thomas had brought light back into my life, and I was ready to see where this new journey would take us. One crisp evening, Thomas invited me over to his place for dinner. The invitation carried an air of anticipation and excitement. yet a tinge of nervousness lingered in my chest. This wasn't just another dinner, it felt significant. A pivotal moment in the blossoming connection between us. I meticulously prepared, agonizing over the perfect outfit and rehearsing casual but witty things to say. I wanted to impress him. Not just with how I looked, but with how I carried myself. When I arrived, the sight that greeted me took my breath away. The table was a vision of elegance, adorned with soft candlelight and carefully arranged settings. The warm, inviting aroma of spices and freshly cooked food filled the air, wrapping me in a comforting embrace. "Wow! This looks incredible," I said, my voice betraying both amazement and gratitude as my eyes scanned the spread of beautifully prepared dishes. "Only the best for my special guest," he replied with a grin that sent a flutter through my heart. His smile had a way of disarming me, of making the world feel lighter and brighter. We settled into our seats, and the evening unfolded like a dream. Conversation flowed effortlessly, each word drawing us closer, as if we'd known each other for years. He told stories that had me laughing until my sides hurt, and I shared anecdotes I hadn't thought about in years. There was something magical about the way we connected, as though the universe had conspired to bring us together. As the meal wound down, we moved to the couch, the dim light of the room casting a soft glow. The chemistry between us crackled like electricity, palpable and undeniable. When Thomas reached for my hand, a thrill shot through me, lighting up every nerve. "Can I kiss you again?" he asked, his voice low and filled with a vulnerability that melted my heart. I nodded, unable to form words, my cheeks warm with a blush. When his lips met mine, it was as though the world had stopped turning. The kiss was tender yet charged, like a spark igniting a fire that had been dormant for too long. Time seemed to dissolve as we lost ourselves in the moment, the intensity of our connection leaving me breathless. When we finally pulled away, I looked into his eyes and saw something that mirrored my own feelings, a mix of longing and awe. "I've never felt this way before," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. "Neither have I," he replied, his tone sincere. "It's like there's something unexplainable between us." From that night, our relationship blossomed like a garden in spring. We spent nearly every evening together, each one an adventure in its own right. Whether we were exploring the city's hidden gems, taking long walks under the stars, or simply enjoying quiet nights in, every moment with him felt like a treasure. Thomas brought a lightness to my days, a happiness I hadn't realized I was missing. One evening, we decided to watch a movie at his place, snuggled up on the couch. The warmth of his body next to mine was more comforting than I could have imagined. The film played on, but I found myself barely following the plot. My attention was entirely consumed by Thomas, his laugh, his presence, the way his hand rested lightly against mine. "Do you want to go to the bedroom?" he asked suddenly, his voice breaking through my thoughts. A rush of nerves and excitement coursed through me. "Yes," I replied, my voice barely audible, but my heart racing with anticipation. As he led me by the hand, the gravity of the moment settled over me. It felt like a significant step, one I both yearned for and approached with a touch of trepidation. Inside his room, he turned to me, his expression soft yet serious. "I want you to know how much I care about you," he said. "We don't have to rush anything. I want this to feel right for you." His words filled me with a profound sense of appreciation. In that moment, I realized just how much Thomas respected and valued me. As we kissed, my worries melted away, replaced by a warmth that radiated through every part of me. The night was a mosaic of tenderness and intimacy, a memory I knew I would treasure. In the weeks that followed, our bond grew stronger. Thomas had a way of making every day feel special. He was kind, thoughtful, and endlessly supportive. And I found myself thinking about him constantly. It was as if he had reawakened a part of me I thought I'd lost. A part that dared to hope and dream again. One weekend, he suggested a day trip to the beach. "I know a perfect spot," he said, his eyes alight with excitement. I couldn't contain my enthusiasm. "That sounds amazing," I replied, already imagining the adventure ahead. The following Saturday, we set off early, the sun just beginning to rise. The drive was filled with laughter and music, our voices mingling as we sang along to our favorite songs. The open road stretched ahead, and with Thomas by my side, I felt an exhilarating sense of freedom. When we arrived, the sight of the sparkling waves and endless blue sky took my breath away. The beach was everything he'd promised and more: peaceful, beautiful, and brimming with possibility. As we walked along the shore, hand in hand, I realized how much he had changed my life. With Thomas, every moment felt like the beginning of something extraordinary. The moment we stepped out of the car, the sound of waves crashing against the shore filled the air. A rhythmic melody that instantly calmed my mind. The salty breeze whipped through my hair, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of the ocean. There was something invigorating about it, a reminder of how alive and free I felt in that moment. Thomas reached for my hand, his grip warm and reassuring, and together we made our way toward the shimmering water. Each step on the cool sand sent a thrill of excitement coursing through me, like a child rediscovering the simple joys of life. We spent the morning wading into the ocean, laughing as the waves crashed against our legs. The water was cool but refreshing, and Thomas's playful side emerged as he splashed water in my direction, a mischievous grin lighting up his face. I retaliated with a wave of my own, our laughter ringing out over the beach like a duet. At one point, we decided to build a sandcastle, and though our architectural skills left much to be desired, the effort was pure joy. By the time the tide claimed our modest creation, my cheeks ached from smiling so much. As the afternoon stretched on, we strolled along the shoreline, the water lapping gently at our feet. With each step, I felt my connection with Thomas deepen, our conversation flowing effortlessly. We talked about our dreams, our fears, and the little things that made us who we were. He listened intently, his eyes fixed on mine, as if every word I said mattered. When the sun began its slow descent, painting the beach in a golden hue, we found a secluded spot to sit and watch the waves. I leaned my head on his shoulder, the warmth of his presence grounding me in the perfection of the moment. "This is perfect," I said softly, the words barely audible over the symphony of the ocean. He wrapped an arm around me, pulling me closer. "I'm glad you're enjoying it," he replied, his voice gentle yet filled with an unmistakable sincerity. When I looked up at him, his smile made my heart skip a beat. In that instant, I knew I had found someone truly special. As the sun dipped below the horizon, transforming the sky into a masterpiece of pink and orange hues, a profound sense of peace washed over me. It was one of those rare moments that felt suspended in time, a memory I wanted to hold on to forever. Thomas turned toward me, his eyes glowing in the fading light. "I really like you," he said. His voice a mix of vulnerability and courage. "I feel like we have something really special." My cheeks flushed. And my heart raced as I met his gaze. "I like you too, Thomas," I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. "You've brought so much joy back into my life." He leaned in, his movements slow and deliberate. And when our lips met, the world seemed to fade away. The kiss was soft yet charged with emotion, a promise of what was to come. As the last light of the day disappeared, I felt an overwhelming sense of contentment. After that day at the beach, our bond grew stronger with each passing week. Our weekends became adventures, whether we were exploring hidden trails, trying out quirky local cafes, or simply staying in and cooking together. Every moment felt special. One afternoon, we decided to visit a local art festival. Thomas's passion for art was infectious. As we wandered through the vibrant exhibits, he shared his thoughts on different pieces, pointing out details I might have missed. "I love how art can tell a story," he said, pausing in front of a vivid painting that depicted a serene countryside. I nodded, captivated not only by the art but also by the way he viewed the world. His insights made me see beauty in places I hadn't thought to look before. Standing beside him, I felt a warmth spreading through me, a realization of how much I cherished these moments. It wasn't just about attraction anymore, it was a connection that felt profound and rare. One evening, as we relaxed on the couch, the room lit only by the soft glow of the TV, I felt an overwhelming sense of comfort. I leaned against him, his arm wrapping securely around my shoulders, and sighed contentedly. "I'm really happy with you," I said, breaking the comfortable silence. My words felt raw and unfiltered, but they were true. His gaze softened, and a tender smile spread across his face. "I am too," he replied. "I've been thinking a lot about us. And I want to be honest." A flurry of emotions stirred within me as I turned to face him. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice tinged with curiosity. "I feel like we're building something really special," he said, his tone steady and sincere. "I know we're both coming from different places, but I want to see where this goes. I want to be with you." The weight of his words hung in the air, their significance sinking in. This was what I had been hoping for, and hearing it out loud made it all the more real. "I want that too," I replied, my smile wide and genuine. I've never felt this way about anyone before. As our lips met in another heartfelt kiss, I knew we were embarking on a journey filled with promise and excitement. As our relationship deepened, I began introducing Thomas to my friends and family. It felt natural to share him with the people who mattered most to me, and I was eager for them to see what made him so special. One evening, I hosted a small dinner at my place, inviting a few close friends. Thomas arrived carrying a beautifully made dessert, his thoughtfulness earning him immediate points. As the evening unfolded, I watched with joy as he charmed my friends with his wit and warmth. The room was filled with laughter and animated conversations, and I felt a sense of pride swell within me. Later, after everyone had left, Thomas turned to me with a satisfied smile. "I had a great time tonight. Your friends are awesome," he said, his eyes reflecting genuine gratitude. "I'm glad you liked them," I replied, relief and happiness intertwining in my heart. In moments like these, I realized just how much Thomas had become a part of my life, and how much I wanted him to stay. As the weeks turned into months, I marveled at how effortlessly Thomas and I grew closer. Our connection deepened with every conversation, every shared laugh, and every quiet moment. It was as if the walls I had carefully built around my heart were slowly crumbling, brick by brick. One sunny afternoon, as we strolled hand in hand through a local park, the tranquility of the setting gave me the courage to open up about a part of my past I rarely shared. I used to be so afraid of letting anyone get close to me, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I glanced at Thomas, gauging his reaction. After being hurt so badly, I told myself it was safer to keep people at a distance. But with you, it feels different. I feel safe. He stopped walking and turned to face me, his eyes filled with understanding. Taking my hand in both of his, he gave it a reassuring squeeze. I understand, he said gently. It's hard to let go of that fear. But I want you to know, I'm here for you. I want to be someone you can trust. Someone who makes you feel safe. His words were like a balm to my soul, soothing wounds I hadn't realized were still tender. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for him and the way he made me feel. Not long after, Thomas proposed an idea that made my heart leap with excitement. How about a weekend getaway, he suggested. I found this beautiful cabin in the woods. Just us, nature, and no distractions. The idea of escaping the noise of the city and spending uninterrupted time together thrilled me. We packed our bags that Friday morning, eager for the adventure ahead. As we drove into the countryside, the scenery transformed into a picturesque landscape of towering trees and rolling hills. The air grew fresher, and a sense of calm washed over me. The cabin was everything Thomas had promised: cozy, rustic, and nestled amidst a forest that seemed to hum with life. The moment we stepped inside, I felt an instant connection to the place. Over the next few days, we fell into an easy rhythm. We hiked trails that led to breathtaking views, cooked meals together in the tiny kitchen, and spent long hours talking about anything and everything. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, casting a golden glow over the cabin, Thomas lit a fire in the stone hearth. We sat close on the rug, the warmth of the flames enveloping us. He pulled me into his arms, and I rested my head against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. I feel like we're in our own little world here, he murmured, his voice soft and reflective. I love it, I replied, snuggling deeper into his embrace. It's perfect. Our last night at the cabin was nothing short of magical. The sky was a canvas of stars, their brilliance unspoiled by city lights. Wrapped in blankets, we sat outside, gazing up at the endless expanse above us. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine and earth. I never want this to end, I whispered, my voice tinged with awe and longing. Me neither, Thomas replied, his tone sincere. He turned to me, his eyes reflecting the starlight. I want to make more memories like this with you. As he leaned in to kiss me, the world around us seemed to fade away. In that moment, beneath the vast sky, I felt a surge of emotion so intense it took my breath away. I realized I was falling for him, deeply and irrevocably. When we returned home, the peaceful glow of the weekend lingered. Our bond had grown stronger, and I felt a renewed sense of hope for the future. Thomas had become a cornerstone in my life, someone I could count on and care for in ways I hadn't thought possible. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sun set in a blaze of orange and pink hues, Thomas's demeanor shifted. He turned to me, his expression serious yet tender. "Can I ask you something important?" he said. His voice steady but laced with a hint of nervousness. My heart quickened as I nodded, unsure of what was coming. "Do you think, would you ever want to marry me?" His gaze was earnest, filled with hope and vulnerability. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. The weight of his question hung between us, and my heart ached at the thought of disappointing him. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Thomas, you are amazing, and I love being with you," I began, choosing my words carefully. "But I don't think I want to marry again." His expression faltered, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face before he looked down at his hands. My chest tightened at the sight, knowing how much courage it had taken him to ask. "I've been married before," I continued gently. "It didn't work out, and it left me with scars I'm still healing from. I don't think I'm ready to go through that again." He nodded slowly, his fingers tracing the edge of the porch railing. "Thank you for being honest," he said after a moment, his voice quiet but sincere. "I appreciate that. I really do. Can we still be friends?" I asked, my voice soft but hopeful. "I love spending time with you, and I don't want to lose what we have." His eyes met mine, and a small smile returned to his face. "Of course," he said. "You mean a lot to me. I don't want to lose you either." We shared a warm hug, and though there was an undercurrent of sadness, there was also relief in knowing our bond remained intact. As the sun dipped below the horizon, bathing us in twilight, we sat together in silence, each lost in our thoughts. Though the path forward was uncertain, I knew one thing for sure: the connection we shared was special, and I was grateful for it. Looking back, I realized that sometimes the most significant pieces of our lives appear when we least expect them. While my story with Thomas didn't lead to the fairy tale ending many might hope for, it taught me invaluable lessons: to be honest with my feelings, to open my heart to new possibilities, and to cherish genuine connections, no matter how brief or enduring they may be. Love isn't always about reaching a clear destination, it's about the journey we share. This story isn't just about romance, it's about growth, healing, and discovering oneself in life's unexpected turns. Thank you for following this story. If you enjoy meaningful and heartfelt stories, make sure to hit the subscribe button today so you won't miss the next video. The journey is far from over, and I can't wait to share more with you.